My wife has been secretly funneling our savings to her struggling brother for years, and now we are on the verge of eviction while he just bought a new boat. I feel completely hollowed out. Like someone reached inside my chest and pulled out everything that mattered. For context, my wife, let's call her Haley, and I have been married for 7 years. We aren't rich, but I thought we were comfortable. We both work full-time. We don't take lavish vacations. And we drive older cars specifically because we were saving for a down payment on a house. Or at least, I thought we were. 2 days ago, I came home early from work to find a frantic voicemail from our landlord. He was asking why the rent check had bounced for the second month in a row and mentioned that if we didn't pay the arrears plus late fees by the end of the week, he'd have to start eviction proceedings. I thought it was a mistake. I handle the household bills, but we have a joint savings account where we dump everything extra. I logged into our banking app, expecting to see a glitch or maybe a fraudulent charge. The balance was zero. Not just low, zero. Over $45,000, gone. I felt the blood drain from my face. I scrolled through the transaction history, expecting to see a hack, but instead, I saw dozens of transfers. $500 here, $2,000 there, sometimes huge chunks like $5,000 at once, all transferred to MH. That's her brother, Clayton. Clayton is the golden child of her family. A guy who has potential but can never seem to hold down a job because every boss he's ever had is apparently a tyrant who doesn't understand his genius. When Haley got home, I didn't even yell. I was too shocked. I just turned the laptop screen toward her. She turned pale, but then, almost immediately, her face hardened into this defensive expression I've never seen before. She told me that Clayton was in trouble, that he was about to lose his apartment, that he needed money for medical bills, that he was struggling and she couldn't just watch her brother drown. She insisted that she was going to pay it back before I noticed that it was just a loan between family. I asked her how long this had been going on. She admitted it had been 3 years. 3 years of lies. Every time we skipped a dinner date to save money, every time I worked overtime, I was effectively funding Clayton's lifestyle. But here is the kicker, the thing that has me shaking with rage right now. I went on Instagram this morning to see if Clayton had posted anything about these alleged hardships. The first thing on his feed was a photo posted yesterday. It's him, holding a beer, standing on the deck of a gleaming, brand new center console boat. The caption read, "Finally got my baby. Hard work pays off. Hashtag boat life, hashtag blessed." He bought a boat. My wife stole our life savings, the money for our future children, our house, our security, so her deadbeat brother could buy a boat while we are days away from being kicked out onto the street. When I showed Haley the picture, she actually defended him. She told me that everyone deserves a little joy and that he probably bought it used or with a loan, and that I was being materialistic. I feel like I'm losing my mind. I packed a bag and left, but she's blowing up my phone saying I'm abandoning her when she needs me most. What do I do? Am I crazy for wanting to divorce her over this immediately? Or should I try to get the money back first? Commenter: Dude, you are not crazy. This isn't just borrowing money. This is financial infidelity of the highest order. She stole $45,000 from you. And for what? So her brother could cosplay as a captain? You need to lawyer up immediately. Do not go back to that apartment. Secure whatever money you have left in a separate account she can't touch. This marriage is over. She chose him over you a long time ago. Commenter: I am literally shaking reading this. Everyone deserves a little joy? Is she delusional? You are about to be homeless. The level of gaslighting here is insane. She isn't sorry she stole. She's sorry she got caught. You need to screenshot that Instagram post, print out the bank statements, and confront him too. But honestly, run. She will never stop enabling him. Commenter: NTA. The money is likely gone, man. Even if you sue him, good luck collecting from a guy like that. Focus on protecting yourself. If your name is on the lease, talk to the landlord, explain the situation, without oversharing too much drama, and see if you can get off the lease. You need to separate your finances yesterday. Do not pay for her mistakes. Update 1. 4 days later. Reading your comments gave me the wake-up call I desperately needed. I think part of me wanted to believe there was a reasonable explanation, but seeing strangers validate my anger made me realize how twisted this reality actually is. I didn't go back to the apartment that first night. I stayed at a cheap motel, mostly because I didn't want my friends to know how humiliated I was yet. The next morning, I went to the bank. I opened a new account solely in my name and redirected my direct deposit. The teller looked at me with pity when I asked for printouts of every transfer made to Clayton over the last 3 years. Seeing it on paper was worse than seeing it on the screen. It wasn't just help for rent. There were transfers specifically labeled vacation, car repair, and one massive transfer from 6 months ago simply labeled love you. I decided I needed to see it for myself. I drove down to the marina tagged in Clayton's photo. It didn't take long to find him. He was actually on the boat, polishing the railing, looking without a care in the world. I walked up to the edge of the dock and just stared at him. When he saw me, he didn't look ashamed. He actually smiled and waved, inviting me aboard like we were best buddies. I told him to get off the boat because we needed to talk. He laughed and told me I needed to loosen up, saying that Haley told him I was having a meltdown about finances and that I shouldn't worry because he was going to pay us back big time once his new business idea took off. I felt this cold fury rising in my throat. I asked him if his new business idea involved spending my down payment on a fiberglass toy. He shrugged and said that Haley gave him the money as a gift, not alone, and that what they did as siblings wasn't really my business. He actually said that. He told me that Haley understands that family supports family, implying that I was the outsider. I lost it. I told him that while he was floating on the freedom, his sister was about to be evicted because she gave him our rent money. The color finally drained from his face, not because he cared about Haley, but because he realized the gravy train was crashing. He stammered that he didn't know it was that bad. I told him I was going to sue him for every cent and that I would make sure everyone in our town knew exactly how he bought this boat. When I finally met up with Haley later that day at a coffee shop, I refused to go home. She was a mess, but not the kind of mess that suggests remorse. She was angry. She accused me of harassing her brother and embarrassing him at the marina. She told me that I was being vindictive and that money comes and goes, but family is forever. I laid the bank statements on the table between us. I asked her point blank if she realized that her gift to him was illegal because it was marital assets stolen without my consent. She scoffed and said I was being dramatic. Then she dropped a bombshell. She told me that her parents knew. Apparently, they had been encouraging her to help Clayton because they couldn't afford to bail him out anymore, and they figured I made enough money that I wouldn't miss it. I felt like the room was spinning. My in-laws, who I have cooked for, hosted for holidays, and helped with yard work, have been complicit in draining my savings for years. They viewed me not as a son-in-law, but as a wallet to subsidize their failure of a son. I told Haley that I was done. I told her I wouldn't be paying the rent on the apartment and that she had better ask Clayton or her parents for a place to stay because I was contacting a divorce attorney. She started screaming in the middle of the coffee shop, calling me a heartless monster who cares more about money than people. I walked out while she was still yelling. Now, my phone is blowing up from her parents. Her mother sent me a long text saying I promised to take care of her daughter for richer or poorer and that leaving her now over a financial misunderstanding is a sin. They are threatening to ruin my reputation in the community if I file for divorce. I feel like I'm at war with an entire family. How do I handle her parents? Should I respond to these threats or just block them all? Commenter. Block them. Do not engage. Anything you say to them will be twisted and used against you. Financial misunderstanding? They conspired to steal nearly $50,000 from you. That is not a misunderstanding. It's theft. Keep those texts though. If they threaten to ruin your reputation, that could be extortion or harassment. Your lawyer will love that. You are doing the right thing. Stay strong. Commenter. The audacity of this family is actually impressive. They successfully guilt-tripped their daughter into robbing you, and now they are trying to guilt-trip you into staying to be robbed some more. For richer or poor doesn't mean until you steal all my money for a boat. They are terrified because they know if you leave, Clayton becomes their problem again. You are their cash cow, and you just broke out of the pen. Run. Update 2. 9 days later. It has been over a week, and things have escalated in ways I couldn't have imagined. I took the advice to block her parents, but that didn't stop them. They showed up at my workplace 2 days ago. I work in a corporate office with a reception area, and they caused such a scene that security had to escort them out. Her father was shouting that I was an abuser who was abandoning his wife, trying to get me fired. Thankfully, my boss is a reasonable guy. I had already briefed him on the situation because I needed time off to meet with lawyers, so he knew they were unhinged. But it was still humiliating to have my coworkers watching security drag my screaming father-in-law out of the lobby. I'm currently staying at a friend's place. I tried to go back to the apartment to get the rest of my things, clothes, my computer, some personal documents, but the locks had been changed. When I knocked, Haley didn't answer. Instead, Clayton opened the door. I saw red. He was wearing one of my hoodies. He leaned against the doorframe, smirking, and told me that since I abandoned the marital home, Haley invited him to stay there for protection because she felt unsafe with me coming around. The irony was so thick I could choke on it. I told him I needed my stuff, and he said I could wait until the lawyers sorted it out, then slammed the door in my face. I called the police. I know, civil matter and all that, but I had proof of residence and my name is on the lease. The officers who arrived were tired and clearly didn't want to be there, but they told Clayton he couldn't deny me entry to my own home. When we got inside, the place was a disaster. It looked like a frat house. Pizza boxes everywhere, empty beer bottles, likely bought with my money. Haley was sitting on the couch, crying. But the moment she saw the police, she switched into victim mode instantly. She told the officers that I had been financially abusive and that I was trying to intimidate her. It was terrifying to watch how easily she lied. The female officer pulled me aside and asked if I had anywhere else to go. I explained about the stolen savings in the boat. She looked at me, looked at Clayton in my hoodie, and just sighed. She told me, "Get your essentials and get out. You don't want to be here when this powder keg blows." I grabbed what I could. As I was packing my suitcase in the bedroom, I noticed my jewelry box was empty. My grandfather's watch, my class ring, a few gold coins I'd collected, all gone. I walked out to the living room and asked Haley where they were. She wouldn't look at me. Clayton, however, was sitting on the sofa, scrolling on his phone. I asked him if he pawned my grandfather's watch. He didn't even look up. He just said, "Haley said we needed grocery money since you cut us off. You can't expect us to starve." I lunged. I'm not a violent person, I swear, but seeing him sitting there, wearing my clothes, in my apartment, having sold my grandfather's heirlooms after stealing my future, I snapped. The police officer grabbed me before I could reach him, physically restraining me against the wall. Clayton jumped up, feigning fear, yelling, see, he's crazy. The officer walked me outside and told me strictly that if I came back, I'd be arrested. She said, sir, I believe you. But you are losing the war by fighting these battles. Let the courts handle it. So now I am sitting on my friend's air mattress. I have initiated divorce proceedings. My lawyer says we have a strong case for dissipation of assets, and we might be able to go after Clayton for the theft of the jewelry if we can prove he took it. But that's a long shot. The eviction notice has officially moved to court filings. I contacted the landlord and explained everything. He was sympathetic but said business is business. He is going to evict us both. My credit is going to take a hit. But my lawyer said it's better to take the hit than to pay off the arrears and let Haley and Clayton live there for free for another month. Here's the problem I'm facing now. Haley has launched a smear campaign on social media. She is posting vague status updates about surviving financial abuse and narcissistic abandonment. Mutual friends, people I have known for years, are blocking me. Even my own cousin called me asking why I left my wife with no money for food. She has spun a narrative so convincing that I am starting to feel like a pariah in my own town. How do I combat these lies without looking like I'm just mudslinging? Do I post the evidence? Do I stay silent? I feel like my reputation is being destroyed by the minute. Commenter, do not stay silent, but do not get emotional. This is a PR war now. You need to post a clear, factual statement. I am saddened by the end of my marriage. Unfortunately, after discovering that $45,000 of our savings was secretly transferred to my brother-in-law over 3 years, resulting in our eviction, I had no choice but to separate my finances. I wish Haley the best, but I cannot fund her family's lifestyle at the cost of my own survival. Attach one redacted bank statement. Drop the mic. Commenter, whoa, hold on. Ask your lawyer before you post anything. Defamation laws are tricky, and even if it's true, it could complicate the divorce. But honestly, if your lawyer gives the green light, burn it down. People like Haley and Clayton thrive in the shadows. Shine a light on them. Show the picture of the boat. Show the empty bank account. The financial abuse claim is projection. Commenter, the jewelry theft breaks my heart, man. That is low. Check local pawn shops immediately. If you find the watch, you can file a police report for theft against Clayton or Haley, and that gives you huge leverage. As for the friends blocking you, let them go. If they believe her without asking your side, they weren't your friends. Focus on the legal battle. The truth always comes out in court. Update 3. 2 weeks later, I took the advice. I didn't stay silent, and I didn't just let the jewelry go. After my last post, I spent 3 days visiting every pawn shop in a 20-mile radius. It was grueling, soul-sucking work. I had photos of the watch, a vintage Omega that my grandfather received for his retirement in the 70s. It wasn't worth a fortune like a Rolex, but it was worth enough to be a felony theft, and priceless to me. On the 3rd day, I hit pay dirt. The guy behind the counter recognized the watch immediately. He said a nervous guy brought it in claiming it was an inheritance he didn't want. I asked if they had a record of the seller. The law requires them to take ID, and there it was, a photocopy of Clayton's driver's license and his signature on the receipt. He sold my grandfather's legacy for $400. I didn't call Haley. I didn't call Clayton. I called the detective who had taken my initial report. When I told him I had the location of the stolen item and the pawn slip with the suspect's signature, his tone changed completely. This was no longer a civil dispute about marital assets. This was theft. The police met me at the pawn shop to collect the evidence, and then we went to the apartment. I waited in the car this time, watching from down the street. I didn't want to be in the middle of it, but I needed to see it. Seeing 2 officers knock on the door, watching Clayton get let out in handcuffs 10 minutes later. I won't lie, it felt like the first deep breath I've taken in a month. Haley came running out after them, screaming, trying to pull the officers away. It was a spectacle. That evening, I decided to end the PR war. My lawyer gave me the green light to post a clarification as long as I stuck to verifiable facts. I posted a single image on Facebook. It was a collage. Top left, the bank statement showing the $45,000 drained. Top right, Clayton's new boat Instagram post. Bottom, the police report number regarding the theft of my heirlooms. My caption was short. I have remained silent while false narratives were spread about me to protect people who do not deserve protection. I did not abandon my wife. I fled a financial crime scene. Our life savings were stolen to purchase a boat for my brother-in-law, who has now been arrested for stealing and pawning my deceased grandfather's watch. I am heartbroken, but I will not be painted as the villain for refusing to bankroll my own destruction. The reaction was nuclear. Within an hour, the supportive comments on Haley's posts vanished. Her friends, the ones who had blocked me, started unblocking me and sending apologies. Apparently, Haley had told them I was gambling the money away. The truth hit our small community like a freight train. The eviction notice was finally executed yesterday. I wasn't there, but a neighbor told me that Haley's parents had to come with a U-Haul. The neighbor said her dad looked like he had aged 10 years. They loaded up Clayton's boat supplies, ironic, and Haley's clothes. The apartment is gone. My credit is tanked, but I'm free of the lease. However, Haley is now blowing up my email, since she's blocked everywhere else. She's begging me to drop the charges against Clayton. She says a felony will ruin his life and that he won't be able to get a job. She actually said, he's just a boy who made a mistake. He is 32 years old. My lawyer says the DA is moving forward regardless of what I want. But Haley's parents are offering to pay me back $10,000 if I write a letter to the judge asking for leniency. I feel like I should take the money to recoup some losses, but part of me wants to watch him burn. What do I do? Commenter, do not take the money. That is bribe money. If you take that, they will spin it that you were just extorting them the whole time. $10,000 is a fraction of what they stole from you. Let the DA handle Clayton. He ruined his own life when he decided to steal from you. Just a boy? He's a grown man who creates victims. Don't be one of them anymore. Commenter, recovering financially will take time, but selling your integrity for $10,000 isn't worth it. Plus, if they have $10,000 to bribe you, why didn't they use that to help Clayton instead of stealing your savings? They're only opening their wallets now to save face. Screw them. Update 4. Final update, 3 months later. It has been 3 months, and I finally feel like the dust is settling. I wanted to give you all a final update because you helped me keep my sanity when I was gaslit into believing I was the crazy one. First, the legal stuff. The divorce isn't finalized yet, but we had mediation. The judge was unimpressed, to put it mildly, with Haley's financial disclosures. Because I had such clear documentation of the unauthorized transfers, dissipation of marital assets, the judge indicated that the $45,000 she gave Clayton will be considered her share of the assets. Since there were basically no assets left because of her, she is leaving the marriage with nothing. Actually, less than nothing. She is absorbing the bulk of the credit card debt we had accumulated for living expenses while she was funneling cash to him. As for Clayton, I didn't write the letter. I didn't take the $10,000. He took a plea deal to avoid a trial. He pled guilty to theft and received 3 years of probation, community service, and a restitution order to pay me back for the watch, which I managed to buy back from the pawn shop myself, and a portion of the stolen funds. Will I ever see that money? Probably not. The Freedom Boat was repossessed by the bank because, surprise, Clayton had lied on the loan application for that too, and stopped making payments the second the gravy train, cut him off. The most satisfying sad moment came about a month ago. I was at the grocery store and ran into my mother-in-law. Usually, she's a very put-together woman, but she looked exhausted. She tried to corner me in the pasta aisle. She started crying, telling me that the stress has caused her husband to have heart palpitations. She said Haley is living in their basement, depressed, refusing to work, and blaming them for letting her ruin her marriage. They are now supporting both Haley and Clayton, who can't find a job with a theft record, on their retirement income. She looked at me and said, "We just wanted to help him. We didn't think it would cost us you." I just looked at her and said, "It didn't cost you me. You sold me. There's a difference." And I walked away. I'm living in a small studio apartment now. It's not much, and I'm driving a beater car because my credit score is slowly recovering from the eviction hit. I'm eating a lot of ramen and working overtime to build my savings back up from zero. But here is the thing. When I come home, the door is locked, and I know exactly who has the key. When I check my bank account, the number is small, but it's my number. It doesn't change unless I spend it. I lost a wife, a brother-in-law, a set of in-laws, $45,000, and my apartment. But I kept my self-respect. And honestly, the silence in my studio apartment is the most peaceful sound I've ever heard. Thank you all for telling me to run. You saved my life. Commenter, you sold me. That is the hardest, coldest, and most accurate line I have ever heard. Good for you, OP. You dropped 180 pounds of dead weight, Haley, and a whole lot of drama. The money will come back. The peace of mind is priceless. Commenter, the fact that Haley is blaming her parents for letting her ruin the marriage shows she has learned absolutely nothing. She is still looking for someone else to be responsible for her actions. You dodged a bullet, my friend. It was an expensive bullet, but you dodged it.